So here's a segment on using the penetrometer. And what we do with this penetrometer is determine the amount of compaction and the depth of compaction in our soils. So this is a penetrometer, and it has a dial on here, and it has two different dials, and one with an inner reading and one with an outer reading. When we use the large tip, we look at the outer reading. Typically, we'll be using the small tip in our soils in Redwood County. So we'll use the inside dial. And I have to give fair warning about these tips. They screw on and off. And so every couple times that you pull it out of the ground, just make sure it's still on there tight. We've lost them in the soil before. And then also with these, they have markings every 3 inches along the probe. So then that way you can keep track of what depth you're at when you hit different pressures in the soil. So when you're using the penetrometer, you want to find your representative area, and using both hands, you want to apply consistent pressure as you push down. So you're pushing down, and as you push down, you read the dial, and you are paying attention to what depth you're at. And you want to do this in multiple areas. So you want to do it within row, in between the rows, and you want to take a few different samples and write it down on your data form to find the average. And the neat thing with finding compaction in your soils is it tells a story. If we are finding compaction between 8 and 12 inches, that's tillage compaction. And even if they're not currently using tillage practices, if they're, no-till or very limited tillage, maybe vertical till, that 8 to 12 inches of compaction is from historical tillage. It takes a while for us to break up the tillage in the soils, and how we can do that is by reducing tillage and utilizing cover crops. And the cover crop roots, they can break through like 295 psi, 300 psi, as opposed to corn and soybeans. They have a hard time getting through 270 psi. And so the corn and soybeans, the roots will hit that area and they won't be able to get through it. And then we'll have lateral roots. So roots, instead of growing down, they grow to the side horizontally. And we don't want to see that. And so cover crops, we can use them to break through the compaction without putting in more compaction like tillage does. And so once the cover crops and the cover crop roots die off, then our row crops can grow and utilize their root channels so they don't have to work as hard, and they can still get down and access the water and the nutrients in the soil. And also compaction, it reduces the rate that water can infiltrate, so then we have ponded, saturated, wet soils. It's not good for our crops. And this tool, this penetrometer, can help show you how tight that compaction is and at what depth. And then we can utilize different management strategies to alleviate that.